So welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us. Today, we're going to be discussing the role of AI in improving operations and operating practices, and how the knowledge drain is creating opportunities for AI in the continuous process manufacturing industries. So I'm Peter Reynolds, and I'm going to be your moderator today, and I'd like to first introduce our speakers. So our first speaker is Kathy McLeod. Kathy is CIO for Samuel & Sons, a leading metals and industrial products manufacturer, and Lloyd Colegrove. Lloyd recently retired as Director of Industrial Analytics from DOW Chemical. And we also have John Murdoch. John is VP of Platforms with Canvas AI. Welcome, everyone. Okay, so let's get started. So Kathy, let's start with you first. Let's talk about Samuel & Sons and what were the business drivers for you to start implementing AI for your operations?
Sure. So we noticed a problem, and right from I think COVID kind of escalated it, where we noticed an aging workforce and people voluntarily leaving the workforce, difficulty recruiting new labor, especially on the shop floor. And the problem that we were seeing was some of these folks had worked for 15, 20, 30 years and had a tremendous amount of expertise. When we tried to backfill them with a new younger worker, they simply didn't have that skill set. So shrinking talent pool and a lot of talent walking out the door as they retired, and we needed to get in front of that problem. We don't see that problem ending anytime soon. And so really, even at an executive level, our CEO was pushing forward to start to look at AI and see how it could help address that challenge.
Yeah. So, okay. Thanks, Kathy. So what about from your side, Lloyd? You've certainly got lots of experience in industry. Do you have a story to tell about some of the drivers for AI?
So the very first time we ever applied AI in operations, the vice president for a business and the senior director of the technology center were both standing on the other side of my desk in my office, trying to understand how we could release a batch product to a customer, and 2 weeks later they were suing us for millions of dollars in ruining their product. And I could spend an hour talking about that, but I won't. But here's the gist. Our process for years had variation that the plant had never recognized as operational variation. Why? Because we weren't looking at those pieces of data. And I very quickly, honestly, went into a spreadsheet and started with the batch data from 6 months, started plotting X versus Y across the entire continuum of data available to me out of the historian and out of the LIMS systems. And I came back to these people 30 minutes later with these pictures, and they looked at me and like, what is this? Well, you see this line of data? That means that it's correlated, and that means it's good. Everything on that line is correct. And I said, but the data point that you're being sued over is this data point out here off axis. And they're like, so it's within specification, right? Because it's within the box or it's within the high-low. Every single measure, it was within specification. I said, yes, but you're breaking a fundamental rule of thermodynamics by creating that data point out there. Let's go out and figure out first when it's happening and protect our customers from it. And then we'll now go through the process of understanding why it's happening. Because by the way, the data indicated that it was happening 10 to 15% of the time for the last 40 years of production. So we published our first article on this. And this geeky little article about batch control in our process, which is AI in 2003, has been worth, we've avoided lawsuits because we stopped doing this to our customers randomly. And at the time they were keeping track, it was probably worth $30 million a year in losses due to this unknown problem. So our AI journey literally started when I had a vice president and a senior director staring at me going, why are we getting sued for this? And I simply looked at the data a different way. And boy, I wish I'd had Canvas back then.
Right. Okay. So I'm sure we're going to get to talk a little bit about the technology and how the technology has changed. A lot's happened since 2003. But we hear a lot about this AI, and AI is quite challenging. So there are some statistics that are available. So Boston Consulting Group recently published a report: 60 to 80% of AI and analytics programs fail, right? So, and we also hear that industrial manufacturing is lagging behind other industry segments. So Kathy, what would you recommend somebody, somebody that's similar role as yours, what would you recommend in terms of getting started with operational improvements?
So it's really important to get the plant involved right from the outset. So we started the journey with, from the executive level, really thinking that this is something we wanted to invest in. But the struggle that we encountered was it seemed like a corporate initiative. So getting the plant involved early, getting the plant manager on side, getting the process engineers on side, making time for the project, because it will take a tremendous amount of their time as you learn and evolve and test the models. And I think the other piece I would say is getting a respected shop floor worker involved in the project as well. A lot of this, as you roll the new models out, new technology out, there's an apprehension or a mistrust of the solution. So if you can get a respected person on there that can convince his peers, his or her peers, that the value of this, I think that will go a long way. I think the other big piece is understanding your problem. Make sure that you do have a real problem to solve. Start small. Don't try and boil the ocean with the first one. So start with a small problem. When people see the benefits, they'll quickly get on board and the trust will grow. It really, with us, it came a lot down just to the trust, right? You've got someone who's 30 years of experience versus a somewhat new, this is AI. How can I trust it? How does it know as much as I do? And then I think the third piece I would say is around data. So it takes a tremendous amount of data to have these models work. It's important to understand your inventory of data early. You need to know what's available, how accurate it is, if you can access it. There's all of these challenges that will come up through the project. And the sooner you start to address those challenges, the better.
Lloyd, what do you think? Have you got anything to add to that? What are your recommendations?
Kathy hit all the top points about getting the people involved, and I had all those experiences. The one thing that was maybe unique to Dow or not was somebody had to pay for the technology. And typically in my company, it was the production leaders thinking, oh boy, here we go again, another charge. So one of my partners in crime, her name is Mary Beth Seaschultz, and she's still at Dow. She came up with this sales bit because it's hard for an external company to come into any company and sell something. They can try it. They do it all the time. But really, we had a small group of people that would bring things in, and then we'd go to the plant. Well, there's still that hesitancy from the operators and from the engineers, but we befriended them. But we would make a deal. We would buy licenses within the corporation. And then we go to the production leader and say, look, this is not going to cost you a dime. We're going to install it. We're going to set it up. We got you ready to go. And in 6 months, if you don't like it, we'll take it out. Well, then we'd make sure they were successful. We'd work with the operators, work with the engineers, get everything going. And they weren't paying for it at that point, but eventually they would need to, right? Because it's got to be on their books, not mine. And within 4 to 5 months, we'd go back and say, well, we're ready to remove the software from your plant now because, we said it was just a loan. And they're like, well, no, wait a minute. Don't do that. And so that turned out to be a very successful approach to get past the expense, the money, because then you got people using it. And my friend Mary Beth called it here fishy, because she felt like she was fishing in the chemical plant pond for adherence.
That's good advice. I've often heard that sales training is really important for engineers and other professionals in the industry, because at the end of the day, you got to be able to explain it in a unique way. And certainly, I admire your enthusiasm, and I know Mary Beth, and I know about her enthusiasm as well. So let's turn a little bit to you, John, VP of Platforms with Canvas. So I think specifically, as a solution provider in industry, you're in an interesting position to read the reports from Boston Consulting Group about the failures in industry and not repeat the mistakes of the past. So, John, from your point of view, how are you helping with that adoption of this very difficult technology called AI?
I think there's a couple ways that we work with customers to help them be successful. First is we have a network of external business partners and an internal team of customer success staff. And those are the people that, they comprise a group of domain experts, process engineers, production engineers, data scientists, project managers. And they work very closely with our customers to first start by identifying problems that AI is appropriate for, because just because it's a hard problem doesn't mean it's the right problem for AI. We help customers sort through what a solution looks like. And then at every step in the journey, we're trying to provide direction and advice so that they can avoid the pitfalls of other customers. The other way we help customers be successful is in the platform itself. So we set a goal for ourselves when we embarked on building the Canvas platform that our target user would be the plant engineer, not a data scientist. So that put a burden on us to make the platform intuitive and easy to use so that the data science isn't the barrier. We take that barrier away. There's a lot of buzz in the industry right now about ChatGPT-3. I'm sure you've heard it. And there wasn't new technology there. What changed was we made AI accessible to the average person. That's what we're trying to do with AI for the industrial engineer, make it usable, easy to use. As an example, in our next release coming out shortly, we've prepackaged workflows that solve common industrial problems like predicting product quality, and then bundled that with a wizard that provides direction, context sensitive direction. What do you do next? So that the engineer knows how to solve the problem. We've got a tool coming out that tackles one of the key problems. You would know being successful with AI is part of it is removing noise in your data. So we've got a tool that packages experience over 100 different use cases and helps us give customers the direction on how to handle outliers, how to handle missing data. So those are the kinds of things we've built into the platform, and we hope those help customers avoid some of the challenges.
I like the mention of Chat GPT. Of course, yeah, the industry is abuzz right now with the release of that. And I think just before this call, I tried to access it and it's overloaded. I can't get on right now. But I think an interesting. I watched a talk recently about the impact of Chat GPT and AI on universities in critical thinking and learning. So whereas AI can be a bad thing when you're trying to learn competency in university and developing in the workforce, I believe that AI can also help institutionalize knowledge. And what Kathy mentioned earlier was about the people leaving the workforce is a big challenge. So John, maybe just from your point of view, from Canvas, how is the tools, how are they helping to capture that important manufacturing knowledge?
Yeah, that's interesting. And I think Kathy touched on it. The thing that's probably surprising to folks not in the industrial sector is the degree to which lots of processes still are dependent effectively on experience, and it looks more like craft than science. So you've got the guy that is making machine settings based on sound or gut feel. And those guys today have got 30 years of experience in, and they're retiring. And so we've been working with customers to fill that gap. And what we're seeing is you can use AI to learn from the historical data, so that, say you want to manage product quality, the platform can learn the various control settings that are related to good quality or not good quality for a specific product. So if I look across my client base, I've got 3 different clients using that technology in 3 different ways. One, I've got a customer who basically learned the control settings for each product type and then just built a manual table. And that's just at the various operator stations. And as they brought in the new workforce, they've been more productive and more effective than previous before that table existed, because the table used to be in some guy's head. I've got another customer that what they do is the platform delivers control settings to an operator who then looks at the setting recommendation and goes, yeah, that makes sense to me, and makes an adjustment. And then lastly, we've got customers that actually allow the platform to deliver controls straight to the operations platform. And then the operator lets it go through and only intervenes in exceptional circumstances. That last example is, probably the extreme of where customers are willing to be. And that was a mature customer, but that kind of gives you a flavor of the 3 different ways we're seeing our technology applied to fill that knowledge gap.
Thanks, John. Yeah, Lloyd, what about your experience? And I know you certainly have a lot of experience, working for DOW. Did you see the tools of AI helping with the knowledge drain in your industry?
Yes, we're doing that in many different ways. One of the things I would love to be able to do would be to have all the information that we have packed away behind 3 locked doors, because we don't want anybody else to get at it, to magically appear in front of the operator's desk when they need to see it. But I know the new generation of young people, it doesn't matter, operator, college graduate, they're not going to read that. And so back to what John was talking about, making the data more transparent to people by making more of the data they collect relevant. Plants collect 2,000, 3,000 streams of data from all sorts of points in the plant, but they really only look at maybe 20 to 30. Maybe pay enough attention to 10% of all that to be meaningful. And what AI did was define the data streams that the early operators actually didn't realize they were depending on when they were making gut decisions in the plant, or they hear things or something wasn't quite right. What we do more than anything else in DOW is use the AI to help us understand what they saw or what they heard or what they felt, but from a database perspective, and then take that learning back to the new operations and codify it in terms of the data signals. And then we're using newer approaches and newer systems today to take that codified data and sample back to the operations when it's important that they need to be paying attention to it, or ignoring it because everything's fine. But I personally witnessed bringing a retired operator back to a plant to help get it started because it was a world's one-off plant. It had been shut down for too long for a turnaround, and they couldn't get it started. And it's that kind of thing that I decided early on I wanted to try to help my company avoid in the future, because those situations are real.
So, Kathy, could you think of any cases where AI has helped you to democratize that experiential knowledge and standardized best practice, operating procedures, anything like that?
Yeah, so we're using it within, from a quality standpoint. That's kind of our initial use case that's really seen the most success. And it's a really, exactly what John said. It's around getting the standard operating procedures controlled by the machine, right? So if we've got natural variability within our raw material, having the AI models there, we can predict where this is going to have an impact on the final quality of the product. So we've got an ability to, put thresholds around various variables so that you can see if they're heading off track, if you need to adjust, opposed to waiting until, down the road when you're sampling the product at the end of the line. I think the other piece that I keep talking about the data, but I'm going to say that was probably one of our biggest struggles, was getting the data. So we've also learned just around the importance of having the discipline on collecting the data. We have some clipboards, we have pen and paper, we have people writing down, whatever format that I write might not be the same format as the next person. So we're finding that we were losing a lot of this valuable asset just through our data collection, lack of discipline around data collection. So where we can, we've automated the data collection, but we've also got standard operating procedures put in place to advise on why it's important to collect the data and be consistent on how you're collecting the data and accurate and timely, and because the models rely on it.
Well,
Peter, real quick with what Kathy's point, is that all right? If you're still writing data down in the plant in logbooks, you're not ready for AI. Because if you have to go through the trouble of transcribing that to get into a database somewhere, which by the way still happens a lot, the first thing you need to go do is automate your data transfer from your instrumentation, your everything within the plant into databases that allow you to use it. Otherwise, you will only meet with frustration, in my opinion.
And
that's good.
Well, you're right. That's exactly what's part of our learnings, where we decided, you know what, where are our gaps here? Because we went in, I'm going to say, maybe didn't have a complete understanding of the accuracy and how our data was collected. And that's why I'm saying, you know, I need to gather that inventory right from the start. So yes, we've added instrumentation, and yes, we've automated some of the feeds, because you're right, you won't be able to keep up. If you're going to enter that into your database at the end of your shift, you've missed your opportunity.
And if I may add, if you feel like you need to create more data, I would really urge you first to take a look at the data you're already collecting, which clearly in Kathy's experience, they were doing that as well. But a lot of people worry that you now need to go out and collect more data. And yet I have found it's still true today that most of the data you've got, you're not really using in the first place. So go look there first.
Okay, yeah. So we're getting to the close, folks. Kathy, do you have any final comments?
Just it's a journey. It's been an exciting journey. Very pleased with the support that, you know, Camus and the team has brought to us. I think it's important to remember, you know, you got to start small. You've got to start small and celebrate the wins when you get them. But it certainly is exciting when you see some success.
Okay, yeah. Over to you, Lloyd. Any final comments?
And add to her comments, simply bring it inside and own it with a group of knowledgeable people that can then help support the initial initiatives. Canvas has an outstanding tool and program, but somebody within your company needs to have responsibility for it once it crosses the door.
Thanks. And last but not least, John, what do you have for final comments?
I'm going to be lazy and just kind of echo what Lloyd and Kathy said. I think we've been successful where we've had executive sponsors and visionary clients who are committed to solving problems. And we've been successful where those clients recognize it's a journey and they start small and we build along the way. So that just makes sense to me.
All right. Kathy, Lloyd, John, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Peter.
Thanks very much.
Enjoyed it.